How do we look coolest?
Honestly, I think we're pretty cool looking.
Pretty cool.
Right now. So, will you just kind of like introduce yourself to everyone, kind of whatever you want to talk about, and then we'll just sort of shoot the shit for a while and kind of let everyone get to know you?
Yeah, okay. So I'm Emily Gould. I've been drumming for over 20 years now, and I live here in Colorado Springs, same as Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in the circuit here for a really long time, and Chris and I met years ago.
You were drumming with, well, you drummed with so many bands. I forget which one it was, but it was
I
a
get
band
around.
that I was going to do some vocal work for one of those bands, but that was like over 10 years ago, I think.
It was ages ago. We were so young back then.
We were very young. Yeah.
So, yeah, we got connected through a previous project, I think, of mine. And I met Chris, and we hit it off, and I was really impressed with his tenacity and his musical abilities. Chris plays everything. I don't know if you all know that, but in the recordings...
I try.
No, he does,
yeah.
And he's very successful at it. So
Excellent.
You're welcome. So I was impressed, and it was a super easy decision to want to work with Chris when the time was right. So over the years, we've kept in touch, and we've worked on some stuff together. And most recently, I got to record drums for his newest releases.
Yep.
So I'm really excited.
Yeah. What do you think of it? So the 5-song EP will be out sometime in the next few weeks. I released, I'm sure a lot of you guys saw it, like basically a mixed version that I had done on the YouTube channel. But when we were going through the mastering process, the new group that we're working with, and I'll talk more about that later, it's a guy out in Nashville that he really digs the music, and he basically said, look, the mixes are good, but they're not as good as we need them to kind of take the music to where we want it to be. So it made sense to send them off for mixes to be done by a real pro. His name was, actually I'll go into it now, his name was Phil Anderson. He's up in Canada, and he did an amazing job. When you guys hear it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, when we did that, it gave me a chance to bring Emily on and say, hey, look, this is obviously how I'm hearing the drum parts, but I lose objectivity so quickly when I'm just in here doing it by myself. So it was really cool to get you in to say, hey, whatever of this is working, like, use it, you know? Anything else that you feel like you can add to it, like, go for it. And I just wanted to give you the room to do that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Well, a lot of Chris's choices are ones that I would have made on the drums anyway, which made it very easy to listen and figure out little variations. But for the most part, I kept most of his beats, and I changed up mostly fills and then, like, bridge parts that I thought of. Yeah. But Chris is such a good musician that even working all by himself, which is very hard because it's hard to get creative when you're the only input.
You're going to make me blush over here, yeah?
I know, sorry.
All right.
Yeah. So even having his take on it, which is very difficult to be objective, I listened and I was like, oh, yes, this is exactly how I want to play. Yeah. So recording was super... Yeah. I don't want to, like, sound cocky, but it was easy because it wasn't a big transition for me.
Well, and I can speak to that, too. Like, you came in, and we basically did one take on everything. Because you're dialed in, you know? Like, and that's what, right out the gate, when I started working with you, the first time you came over to play drums, and this was on the If It's War You Want EP that we were working on some stuff, so that would have been, like, over a year ago. Mm-hmm. The first take through, it was like there was no errors, you know? You just had it dialed in. I don't know how much time you'd spent with it, you know, I imagine quite a bit.
Quite a bit,
because you were, like, completely dialed in. And so when I brought you in for this one, I knew it was going to be the exact same thing. It was going to be, like, you know the parts, like inside and out. There was no I think we tracked the first one 2 or 3 times just to get some stuff in the groove, you know.
Yes.
But
yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah, well, thank you very much, first of all. I do work really hard when I get homework. Yeah. I like to be prepared. And it's always a goal of mine, albeit... probably not fair to myself, but it's my goal when recording to nail it on the first take. Yeah. If I head to a studio. If I'm recording at home, I'd take days. Yeah. Yeah, but thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
No, it was super easy, and like I said, I knew it would be, because every time you've come over, it's the same damn thing, which is,
thank you.
Like, for this music especially, and I mean, I guess I'll ask you a little bit about this too, but it seems like the beat, the drumming part sort of, the guitar is so rhythmic. it's like there's only so many places it can go.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Chris is really good. Oh, I'm just going to compliment you
Jeez,
continuously.
I don't know if I can take this. Yeah.
You guys, yeah. Apparently, Chris hasn't done a ton of like personal videos like this, so you'll get to know he's the nicest guy. He's just super great to
Killing
work
his
with.
smalls.
So I'm just going to keep complimenting.
Yeah.
So Chris's writing is super rhythmic, and because he's writing all of the instrumental parts, they all fit into like a really tight pocket, like you said. It's just a clear path to me. I mean, there are lots of musicians, I think, that could expound upon what, the riff that you've written and try to be overly fancy, but at that point, I think you'd really lose the groove. So your rhythms are very easy to just lock into.
That's awesome. Yeah, something that, like, and I haven't even talked to you about this, but when I was going back and forth with Phil, and then Maura Applebaum is the guy that did the mastering, they were both very much like, hey, we love this. If there's one critique, pull back on some stuff.
Sure.
They start, and that's like one of the biggest things that I start stacking so many different elements, right? And a lot of that is because it's like I want line to be supported by a string section and a synth component, and it's like they were just like maybe just one piece,
Totally.
not 8 for each section.
Yes.
And so I thought a little bit of that with the drums too, which they thought the drums fit in perfectly. They were just like, these things are obviously in the pocket.
Yep.
But that really is that less is more kind of concept.
Yeah.
Where it's like just making sure that you're filling up the space correctly, but not so much that nothing else has room to breathe, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that comes back to, I think, recording alone is you have the time and you're sitting in front of the computer and you think, oh, how cool would it be to add this additional layer? And it's very easy because I'm doing it too, not to the extent Chris is. I'm
You got a
dabbling.
little project studio at your place?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I have my own drum studio, and the drum part is I'm very comfortable with, but I'm dabbling in expanding into other instruments, which I am not so great at.
Yeah.
But I'm doing the same thing and have done the same thing previously, where it's just easy to want to add more and kind of fill in the gaps that you hear. But at some point, you do lose any impact because it's kind of like noise.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
And I would say each track had, once I bounce the stems down, I try to put them together so there's as few tracks as possible. But there was probably, it's a damn moth, or what is that? Is that a hornet?
That appears to be a murder hornet.
I'm
Can I brag while this guy's hovering around?
Yeah, go for it.
One time there was a fly on my hi-hat,
Okay.
and I did the most Karate Kid thing I can think of, and I whacked it with my drumstick and killed it. I have a topic I'd like to bring up.
Go for
You
it.
have another singer singing,
Yes.
and will you be doing a whole intro like this with him
Yep.
too? Okay, cool.
Yep, absolutely. So that's one thing, yeah. Tim Junker, who did basically 50% or so of the vocals on the new EP, and obviously when that comes out, you guys will hear it. I'm going to do one of these sit-downs with him. And I've known Tim since I was like probably 14 years old.
That's awesome.
Just a crazy, and he and I first started doing music together, obviously, early high school. And he's done a ton of his own projects. He was in a pretty legit band up in Denver for a number of years, and I'll kind of let him tell his deal. But he's just super, super talented in a way that's not necessarily conventional for like hard rock metal stuff.
Totally.
But yeah, I mean, what do you think?
Oh, I think he's got a really unique voice,
Yeah.
which stands out to me, which I think is critical. With the pandemic happening, a lot of people are pushing like musicians and artists are pushing like crazy to get content out there because our traditional avenues of getting listeners or followers or whatever, they're not available to us. So with all the content out there, I really think it's important for people to set themselves apart.
Yeah.
And you do that by yourself, but I think with the addition of Tim,
Yeah.
your music is exceptionally different.
Yeah.
And not so different it's not appealing to the masses.
Yeah.
Again, that's important too, but I think his quality is unique enough to, I think, catch a person's ear.
Yeah. One of the things that, so Phil Anderson did the mix, I was asking him what he thought. Because I was like, Phil, I mean, you heard the original mixes that I did. Obviously, Tim wasn't on those. So,
Right.
like, when you compare those to these, what do you think? And he goes, like, and Phil's got a real just kind of direct way of communicating stuff like this. He goes, I like the way Tim tells the story.
Oh.
And I thought, That's pretty cool, man.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's a very, especially in those verse parts, as you're sort of building into the chorus and trying to set the stage for what the song is, what it's about. Tim
Right.
does a really good job of
He
some of those
does.
nuances and really, like Phil would say, telling the story.
That is a fascinating way to put it.
Yeah,
He's
I liked it.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I'll introduce you to Phil. You'd love him. He's cool as hell.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody, especially vocalists, have their own way of interpreting how they want to sing what and harmonies and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim's really got a unique thing happening, even with his harmonies. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
telling the story.
Yeah.
That is the coolest way
I
to
know.
put that.
I know, right?
Cool, Phil.
Yeah. And Tim's stuff is like, traditionally he was much more bluesy. Like you'll be able to hear that when you hear the EP. But it's cool because he's so diverse and he's so good that it's like just a little bit of a tweak and all of a sudden he's really in the pocket in terms of singing some of these hard rock verses. And like we were talking about before we turned the camera on, I mean, my goal in writing all this stuff and, you know, bringing you and bringing Tim in and everything else, it's like, I want people that like Ed Sheeran
Yeah.
to like this EP.
Totally.
I don't want this just to be a hard rock metal, like, genre specific. Like, obviously I want people to like that genre to like it, but I really hope that it can draw attention from people that are much more in like a traditional pop kind of even acoustic style space. You know, I think
Yeah.
that this has a lot of that in there.
Yeah, I hear you. I think it's very easy for metal and hard rock musicians to alienate listeners with kind of an extreme style.
Yeah.
And of course, you'll make up your own minds. But with Chris's music, I think the melodic harmonies and melodies and verses are very listenable.
Yeah.
Oh, I was telling him earlier, my folks listened to
Yeah.
a couple of the singles.
And they love death metal. It's like their favorite thing.
They do not.
They do not?
They are a little older, and so even my folks who have very patiently put up with my playing in a lot of metal bands through the years.
We'll touch on that later too. Growing up,
Yeah.
in a no, keep going. I played drums obviously growing up too, and I want to see what that was like in your house and compared.
Totally.
Yeah. So anyway, keep going. Though.
Yeah. Okay. So so my folks have dealt with the genre that they're not thrilled about through my whole career, and these singles, my folks were very impressed with. My dad
That's
was
awesome.
thrilled with Chris's vocal quality, and my mom, who's probably a bit pickier, I would say, liked the melodies, the hooks a lot. So I always think that their opinion matters way more than everybody else's,
Of course.
and they like it. So yeah.
I mean, they've always been my barometer for what's working and what's not. So yeah.
Totally.
No, it's cool to hear. I mean, and it doesn't surprise me though. Like the choruses on all of these tracks really are. They all start with a piano. You know, they're all just
Yeah.
chorded out piano pieces that turn into these like big heavy rock songs. So like, if you can make something good, just chording it out on the piano, singing that melody on top of it, I
Yep.
think you've got something there. You can start adding all the other pieces in, and it's gonna be pretty compelling.
Yeah, I agree. It's
Yeah.
more than just, a crap ton of gain
Mm-hmm.
and, aggression. There's a very delicate, when starting with piano
Yeah.
or acoustic guitar.
Yep.
And I think you did a good job of building it around that sort of softer side.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, and what I thought was super cool, you already touched on this a little bit, but like when I'm, of course, doing the drum parts, I'm thinking about so many other things. There's no way I'm going to be able to focus the attention solely on the drumming. And that's where it's cool to turn it over
Yeah.
and say, use what's good, because there's a lot of those nuances, those little hi-hat hits, right? Those little tom runs, just
Yeah.
things that I'm going, I'm a million miles from thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's like I'm just trying to get this whole thing to play nice with itself,
Right.
together. And it's like you can come in and really just add some of those elements that I would just never think of. So it's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's working super well.
Thanks.
So-
I think so too. It
Yeah.
does help to have one focus
Yeah.
because I don't get too distracted with other elements. I have one job and I just try
Yeah.
to focus on it.
Yeah. And you're super good at it, so that helps.
Thanks, Chris.
Talk to me about Outlaw, because Emily's sponsored by
yeah.
a really awesome drum company, and I was hoping that, plug away, but I
I'd
think
love
people will
to.
be interested in hearing kind of what that is, what that deal is, and a little bit about that company. So.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to. So Outlaw Drums is a company that I've endorsed for the last 4 years, and a lot of I know a lot of other musicians who endorse various products who don't necessarily have a relationship with that company. And the reason I'm so pumped on Outlaw is not just the drums, which I love, Chris loves.
Mhm.
They sound awesome.
Yeah.
But it's also the company gives a very family feel, and they support me 100%, and it feels really good
Yeah.
to have that kind of a backing, especially right now with the dips in our careers and stuff with the world. Outlaw has stepped up and really made an effort. So Outlaw Custom Drums, they build drums 100% to other people's specs. They also have lines that they run they're still Outlaw's shells. They're all custom made shells, but they do have like a standard size that you can get if you want. But I got my whole kit made out of Douglas fir, which is
so cool.
yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah.
I went out on a limb because I was like, they can't screw this up, and they
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
It's a great kit. So if you want to find out more, it's outlawdrums.com. You can find out more through my pages as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm
And well, so the release, I don't know 100% when it's coming out yet, but it's, like I said, you guys can check out the mixed versions on YouTube. Actually, I should probably pull those down. You can check them out through like the end of today, and then I'm taking them down.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So the actual EP will probably release in the next 3 to 4 weeks, would be my guess. I know that the management group, Dennis Sanders is the main guy that we're working with. He's going to want to do a little bit of pre-promo stuff, and then we'll get that out there. There is a 5th song on that EP that wasn't on the one I put on YouTube that's just kind of a piano track. And it's cool because it's 100% just vocals and piano, but on the next EP, it'll be a full-blown song, so everyone will get to hear like the stripped-down version
Yes.
first, which is usually kind of the other way around.
I
But,
love that.
yeah.
I love when bands do that because
Yeah.
you hear one concept of this song, and then you hear it, fully realized, and you get to be like,
Yeah.
which one do I like more? And you get to see
Exactly.
the creative process.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, I mean, that's it's obviously a song designed for piano parts, but that's what we do. Build out big guitars and drum pieces and everything else around these little piano songs.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
I just want to point out Chris's piano playing. You'll hear it is also. I didn't know you played piano like that,
Mhm.
and so
Yeah, you texted me, you go, who's playing piano?
Like,
I'm like, what do you mean?
who can do that?
Yeah.
I listened to it, and I was just blown away because I just don't have this sort of musical ability in terms of melodic instruments so much. Not that drums aren't melodic. That's
Yeah.
a big debate. But
Tom's on there.
yeah, they have
you can,
tuning.
you can tune those in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that piano stuff, you'll hear it. Yeah. Make up your own minds, but I am a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as far as like touring, like that's the biggest thing that the Fire Follows stuff hasn't done any of. I mean, up to this point, it's been just a studio project for me, right? So the only
Yeah.
touring, if you want to call it that, playing out more so. I've just done some acoustics and loop pedal sets. It's fun, but it doesn't work for these songs. These aren't necessarily loop songs because each part is so different. You can't run, something the entire way through.
Yeah.
So obviously touring would be the goal for 2021. You've done quite a bit of touring. Like with
have.
all the different bands that you've been. I mean, you were in
Yeah.
Europe, I think, when I was trying to get you over here the first time
Yeah.
to do some tracking. So
Yeah.
I guess talk a little bit about that. I mean, touring experience, and then, sort of how you would see that going with the Fire Follows stuff.
Oh gosh, I have really high hopes for Fire Follows.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I don't know if you caught on, but I'm just a fan of
It's
what
freaking awesome.
Chris is doing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty low key about it, and
Super chill.
so a person who gets to be involved with it, I'm really stoked. I'm looking forward to what could happen. We don't really. That's a hard part is we can't plan a thing right now, so it's all just hopeful. But the idea would be to hop on to bigger acts who are traveling and touring,
Yep.
and open or
Yeah.
second slot, whatever.
Absolutely.
And that's something I'm really looking forward to. My own touring experiences have been not like huge tours. The one to Europe, I got to play in the Faroe Islands. It was the coolest experience
cool.
of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome with a group called the Double And. and I've toured around the United States and Canada. And so I'm really looking forward to love Europe. I would like to do more, especially there. And they have such a strong musical following with people who are passionate. And so it's really exciting to play in places like that. The U.S. is great too, don't get me wrong. There's just a whole other level of enthusiasm I've found over in Europe. And
That's
so,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Do you think it's
keen.
enthusiasm for just the genre of music that you were playing in? Or does it feel just overall like the live music community is just a bigger part of culturally what they do? I
Yes.
mean, is that okay?
Exactly. I think the arts, I really shouldn't generalize as a person who does not live in Europe, but in my opinion, and based on my little experience, Europeans seem to appreciate the arts in general more, be it pottery or painting, music, what have you. They really seem to be more appreciative. And I think that might come from their society being less work-oriented. Yeah. But again, what do I know? This is just my impression.
I mean, it makes sense. You've got an American culture that's driven by capitalism, and it's driven by the concept of hard work, which is super important, right?
Yes.
None of this shit happens without hard work. But at the same
Absolutely.
time, I totally hear what you're saying, where even subtle cultural shifts can probably make big differences in terms of their appreciation and just the general, space and time they've got to go enjoy stuff like that,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Less.
Yeah. Ask you about growing up drumming.
Oh yeah.
Talk to me about because I laugh when I look back on, because my dad, he was a drummer growing up, and so he bought a drum set. I have a younger brother, who's 2 years younger than me, and we were probably like, I want to say we were like maybe 12 or 13 when he bought a kit and brought it into the house, and
That's awesome.
of course we wanted to play it, so it was a little bit of like knockdown, drag out all the time for who would actually get, so my mom would have like a timer or something where she'd like set it for 30 minutes or whatever, and we'd take turns. But I just remember thinking like, how did they possibly have the patience to listen to 12-year-old boys don't know what the hell they're doing, just banging on drum sets, like.
I wonder that constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you do other instruments as well, or did that come later?
Well, so I started when I was really young. I started playing piano, and then I did lessons for maybe a year or so. But we're talking 4 or 5 years old.
Oh,
and
you were little.
Yeah, and I had no interest in it whatsoever. Like, I wanted to play football. We raced dirt bikes growing up. It's like I wanted to do that stuff. So, but I had enough of, I think, a little foundation set with just some of that once I started playing drums, it was like, oh, okay, I can sort of incorporate, and then I picked up a guitar. And I mean, it all just sort of, it's taken a long time to develop all of it.
Sure.
But the drums was the first instrument that I actually enjoyed playing,
That's
which made sense,
great.
because like if we're out like skateboarding and shit, banging on drums is sort of a natural extension of some of those physical activities that of course we were doing as kids.
Exactly. So. You just wail on a kid. Who doesn't like that?
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
And how are your folks? I mean, I guess it sounds like they were pretty chill with you guys playing.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time. I know there was definitely some days where it was like, you fucking touch that drum set, boy.
Shut up.
Yeah, it
totally.
didn't happen in today. But I think generally they were pretty cool. My parents worked a lot, so I know there was a lot of times when they just were out of the house. And I think Ty and I would probably try to do most of our playing when they weren't there.
That was very respectful.
Yeah, well, I try. Yeah. But, I mean, what was it like at your place?
So I guess it was pretty similar. My folks were 100% supportive. None of us knew I would be into drums because nobody in my family's musical.
No.
My dad's dad was quite the piano player, but he passed away when I was only maybe 4, I want to say. So I didn't even, there was no engagement there. So my direct family have no musical talent whatsoever. Actually, I take that back. My mom can play piano, and she's actually pretty good at it, but she's not an avid player.
Yeah.
She dabbles, and she's good. However, that wasn't like a source of inspiration for me. What happened was I was 9 years old, listening to Blink-182, and I was like
all the small things?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so.
That was that, right? That first album that just took over the world for a little while there. Yeah.
Yep. Enema of the State.
Okay. Yep. That's right. Yep.
It's a lovely title.
Yeah.
So I was listening to that, and the drums in particular stood out to me because I was like, how is one person possibly creating this much noise?
Mhm.
And it just sounded so intricate, and I immediately was drawn to it, and I turned to my dad. I remember I was sitting on the couch, and I had my, at the time, pretty big computer in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
And I was playing it, I think, through my CD player. And I turned to my dad and I was like, Dad, I want a drum. And he went, okay, we'll get you lessons. And that was the whole conversation.
Nice.
Alternately, my older brother, Kevin, who now is lovely. However, when we were teenagers, we did not get along.
Okay.
Kevin would come down while I was practicing, and he would 300 my cymbal stands.
Unreal.
And he would...
What a dick.
What a dick.
Kevin, you almost like ended a career before it started, buddy.
He knows.
Okay.
He knows.
You
We
guys have
talk
talked about this? Okay.
Yes. Now he's like, oh my God, Em, I heard you have a new single. It's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've turned it around.
Yeah.
It took like a decade, but we're really...
Yeah. My brother and I fought like crazy when we were younger too.
Yeah.
Now we hang out like every day.
Yeah,
so.
I got to meet him.
Yeah.
He's great too.
Yeah. He came. So Emily we did an acoustic performance for Loaded Gun, which was the first single off the EP last year, and she came down to Kilo and did a live acoustic set with Ty and I. And my brother actually did some of the like backing vocals, which was pretty cool.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
sick.
really great, supportive.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Wants to be part of the project. So
Yeah.
awesome.
I actually, I tracked some of his vocals on this EP.
You
and
did?
then when I redid them where I brought Tim in, I had like, there were some choruses where I had like literally 20 layers. And I'm like, this is just getting ridiculous.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, so I told Ty, I was
Yeah.
like, sorry, bro, I'm going to have to like kick your stuff out. He goes, oh, I don't care, dude, the songs sound great, man, it's all good.
Yeah, cool.
Cool,
He took that well.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll be on other stuff?
Probably.
He had a nice voice, and he harmonized well because they're obviously similar people.
The timbre's like super similar. Like honestly, when Ty's, especially in his lower register, it can fool me a little bit, where I literally think it's me singing, or vice versa. Like it's so similar.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah, no wonder they blend.
Yeah. So.
Also, speaking of voices, do you want to tell people about your vocal experience?
Yeah,
you don't have to.
No, we can go through it real quick. I know I did like an interview that I think ended up on YouTube a year or so ago where I talked a little bit about it, but I don't think I've ever put one up on the channel. So basically, and I'll do like another video dedicated for this, but I'll just like skim over it.
Yeah.
So basically about 10 years ago, well, almost 10 years, well, sorry, I'm doing math here. I guess it was over 10 years ago. I was singing with this hard rock group, and we were doing a lot of playing out. It started touring outside the state a little bit, and we were recording a full-length album. Basically, I came in one day and I could barely sing. And it was like super disconcerting because I'd never felt the bottom drop out like that quite so quickly.
Yeah.
And so I figured, okay, I'm just tired, like it'll come back. It never came back. So like 5 years later, I'd had all these vocal procedures done. I'd seen like every ENT, which is like an ear, nose, throat doctor I could see. And they did like Botox injections. They ended up putting up like basically a prosthetic in the right vocal cord because it wouldn't move. Or at least it wasn't moving well enough to really meet the other one, it causes all this extra strain because your voice is trying to push so hard to get the cords to close. Anyway, so that took like 5, 6, 7 years to just get back to where I could like speak somewhat functionally again. And I started working with an old vocal coach that I'd been working with like in late high school, early college stuff. And she's just amazing. And she was able to basically rebuild everything about the way that I speak, the way I sing. And all of a sudden, I mean, it took us, like 5, 6 years removed from when I started working with her. But the way I can sing now is crazy. I never thought I would be able to do this again. But there's all these other things that I don't really think I used to have. Like, especially some of the scream stuff.
That is so cool.
It just really came out naturally. So I feel like I got really fortunate. Like I said, I probably lost a few things, but I think I gained a lot more than I lost. So,
which is, I mean, more than anybody could ask for.
Big time.
I mean,
Big time.
as a vocalist, I don't know, I should say as a drummer, for me to equate it, if I lost, a finger or a limb, it would absolutely change everything about my playing. And I think it would take a lot of determination to get playing again and to dedicate the time to relearn the instrument. Yeah. And then to come out above where you were. It's a great story. It sucks.
It
sorry.
Sucked. Well, it was an identity crisis,
Ugh,
and it was at the worst time too, because I had just gone off to school. I was going up to Denver for college, and I was going for vocal performance stuff. At least that was the plan.
Were?
Yeah, and so it's like, what do you do? Like everything was music. Everything was, I'm in this band. We're playing all these shows. We're growing the audience. I mean, and then like boom, it's gone. Like, what do you do with that? I don't know. Yeah, you cry. You cry. You just fucking cry. But it's like, it's you, and then when you can't speak really either. So like you've lost. I just can't explain how weird it was. I just got so used to like, just isolating. I read a lot. I mean, I worked on instruments, right? I learned how to play the guitar much more than I had ever known before. The same with piano and drums, and I just delved into all this stuff, so that once I got it back, it was like, holy shit, I can play every fucking part,
Yeah.
So that was just pretty crazy.
For a miserable situation, you really turned that around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It worked out. It's funny because I don't even think about it that much anymore.
Yeah.
Like I generally don't like look back. I should try not to anyway. But when I do, it's almost like laughable. It's like to think about how dead everything was musically, and then to see now like, holy shit, like this EP was picked up by a great management group that has tour managed for like Papa Roach, and I mean they work with huge bands. Like every time I talk to my manager, like he's just getting out the phone with like Chris Brown from Trapped, right? I mean, like it's just, this EP is like really, really reaching into a stratosphere that I never dreamed it would get to this point. You asked me 10 years ago, like, fucking kidding me?
Right.
Like, best I could have thought is maybe I'll be a drummer or a guitarist in a band. Like, I never thought I'd be doing all this again.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's horrible. I would never wish that upon anyone.
Sure. Yeah.
But I am super impressed by that story. He told me that when we met the first time. And I mean, it just blew me away, because I think a lot of folks in similar situations just give up. I think it's easy to give up. I've given up, and I have nothing wrong. It's easy to wallow.
Well, and music's not. I'll let you finish it, but I want to add that music is an easy thing to want to give up, because you invest so much, and then like you just don't know if it's ever going to pay off, because you're constantly redefining the goal, right?
Yes.
Like you shoot for the stars, and you're like, well, geez, if I can just fucking like do something productive, maybe I can make a few bucks. Like it can get really demoralizing really quickly.
Yes,
so
it can.
I guess even when you talk about giving up, it's like, oh, I get it. I feel like I quit every 2 weeks. I'm like, fuck this shit. It's too much work. Like I want to just do what all my friends do and like just kick it. And I feel like there's so many things in life that I've sort of halted so that I could have the ability and the freedom to still pursue this at the level I'm pursuing it right now. And it's like, you do want to see at some point, you want to see it start producing, There's no doubt. So anyway, I didn't mean to hijack that. But
you're spot on. And it's really hard to to have any sort of clarity, because myself and every musician I know, we set these expectations that seem very achievable, when you're sitting there working hard, but then when a project falls apart or you lose a connection or what have you, you're just back to square one. And it's really easy to be like, this was not a great career choice.
Right.
And I joke too much about that, because I love drumming. I can't do anything else, and I don't want to do anything else. But it's a tough career. You're totally right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so coming back from that, I think, means even more with that perspective.
Yeah. I think I appreciate that. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like everything that you build. Like here's a phrase that I've heard a lot recently, and I love this. It's like people will say, it took me 10 years to become an overnight success, right? And in my case, it's probably longer than that.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's that idea that you've built this foundation, and it's like everything is ready to go, and like in just a moment, like I'll just give you an example. Like, let's say one of these songs catches on XM or something, and it like actually starts charting out. that can change everything overnight as far as who you have access to, the types of bands
Yep.
that you have opportunities to play with. Like again, it's just like in the blink of an eye, everything can change.
Mhm.
And you hope somehow, some way that happens.
Yeah.
Because like all that grinding, it's not like a linear progression. It's like you're just constantly working and working and working, and it's tiny progress.
Yeah.
And then you hope, boom, one day the floodgates just open, and you can really start thriving inside of it, you know?
And, I think everybody hears with the creative arts, the key to success is networking,
Yeah.
who you know. And I used to think that wasn't necessarily true, because talent, I think, is more important than
Talent
who you know.
is so overrated.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
But upon working in this industry, it is who you know.
Yeah.
Of course, talent, you don't get anywhere without talent, but making those connections is how you succeed. And I'm really hopeful with these releases and with your new connections with the production company, that we can, find the right path here.
Yeah.
And while we're talking, I think it's easy for young musicians to listen to older musicians talk, because I did this when I was younger, and get discouraged, because the grind is real.
Yeah.
Success does not 10 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It really does. It's hard work, but like Chris said, it actually is. It's little achievements that you have to keep in mind. Like, for example, getting picked up like you have.
Yep.
I congratulated Chris right away, because
That's awesome.
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
And it's these little steps that will hopefully get us where we want to be. But
Yeah.
I don't mean to discourage anyone with being like super jaded.
Sure.
It's a hard career path.
Yeah.
But hopefully you'll hear through the music that we've worked on, the passion that we put behind it, and obviously Chris's time and energy.
Yeah.
So it's worth it.
It's definitely worth it. I mean, I guess it's to each his own, right? For
Totally.
for you and I, it's like
Yeah.
we might joke about doing other shit, but it's like this is what
No,
we're
we're not
fucking
gonna.
do.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So it's just we're stuck.
Yeah, totally.
It's like
And I don't
it's a
mind.
bad curse. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, I think that's about it. Is there
Mhm.
anything else that you want to jump into, or I think
No,
we pretty much covered everything?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the music will speak for itself.
I think everyone that's heard it so far has a similar attitude, which is this is really, really good. And it's just a matter of picking the right first single to go out and to really be that initial surge off the EP and just see where it goes, So
Yeah.
see.
Do you know which single you're going with?
no,
Me either.
no. I
No.
asked Denny earlier today what he thinks, and he's going to get back to me. But
Okay.
I it's really hard because it depends on, obviously, everyone that I ask has a different opinion on it. Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah,
I bounce back and forth
Yeah,
each
I
time
know.
I listen.
I know. I think there's a couple that are probably more radio friendly. I'll say that. I don't know if they would be like necessarily the most popular on like a Spotify playlist. That
Mhm.
obviously is, yet to be seen. But I think there's a couple that are just, they've got the right kind of radio makeup.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this will be an adventure for all of us.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Obviously, stay tuned. I'll keep posting updates as far as when the EP will be officially out.
Mhm.
And yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Emily. Yeah.
Thanks.